I think we're live. Are we live? We're live. Look at that. We're live. Alrighty then. Good evening, everyone. Just want to cover a few points first before we begin all the fun. Internet here has been a bit glitchy. So there's a chance that we could lose the live chat without much notice. So I just wanted to let everyone know that before we begin. So we got that. So if I just disappear out of nowhere, that's why. I don't. I think it's related to everything else going on around the region with Debby. Debbie. I was supposed to be on vacation. I was gonna have movie night tonight with my wife, but that pesky storm decided to make landfall, and now it's impacting our region. And but it's okay because I'm here. I love doing this. I just wish it was like a week later or something. But it's okay. We have a lot to talk about. Debby has made landfall for the second time. It is rapidly weakening. It is becoming an extratropical low pressure system. We're going to talk about all the details surrounding this storm, about the impacts, what to expect. And from there, we're going to talk about your questions, everything that you have. I see everyone's already starting to load up. As always, just so you know, if you're new, we answer all the questions in the premium chat because they're premium members. So they get all their questions asked, even the crazy ones. So I answer all that. And then after that, we hit YouTube. And then we ask to see if there's anything new going on with Facebook or on X. So let's dive into the data. There it is. Okay, so we start off with the surface observations, and note we have an easterly wind, and that is transporting a maritime air mass into the region right now. That's why it's kind of been cloudy and drizzly and raw and just disgusting out. But the tropical moisture has been starting to surge to the north of this stationary boundary. This stationary boundary is essentially the separation between the pure tropical air, the pure tropical moisture, and the maritime polar mix that we are currently under the influence. Now, when we had the very heavy rainfall a couple of days ago, we were in the middle of that tropical air mass. So you could see the type of potential that we have working with here when you have your precipitable water values surging well above 2.5 inches. You have the perfect lifting and lifting structures and the triggers in the atmosphere to produce thunderstorms. You have light winds, light steering winds, so therefore the thunderstorms kind of hang around, right? That's what we were dealing with back on, what was that? I think that was on Tuesday. This situation's a little bit different. So let's dive into the observations. This is the latest radar and surface map from WeatherTap. This is what's left of Debby. It's still considered a tropical depression, but the National Hurricane Center issued their last discussion, which basically means it's well on its way of transferring and changing into what we call a cold core low pressure system. Cold core low pressure systems are more driven on the differences in moisture gradient and temperature gradient rather than a warm core low, which is driven by the very warm core rising rapidly, the water vapor condensing and then lifting out, right? So that leads to a falling pressure at the center, rising rapid air around that center, and then rapidly sinking into the middle. So we have gone through that transition. Really, at this point, you could really call it an extratropical low with a lot of tropical moisture. So you can see the extensive size of this storm. Now, originally, a couple days ago, the center here was expected to track in this direction based on the influence of the upper level trough. Now, the upper level trough is slightly more delayed. This is transferring over to more of an extratropical low pressure system much faster. And so you're getting more of a western track cutting through central Pennsylvania rather than central New Jersey. So your heaviest rainfall, which is right here, is going to be tracking into central Pennsylvania and through central New York, which also happens to be running up against the Appalachian Mountains. So you're having an enhancement of orographic lifting that's really going to support the enhancement of that heavy rainfall. We are on the eastern side of that circulation. Now, some may say, hey, look, the storm won't be that bad because we're not getting 4 to 8 inches of rain. And granted, most locations we're not going to see flash flooding, sure. But now we're dealing with another threat here, and that is the potential for thunderstorms capable of downburst wind gusts, torrential downpours, and yes, isolated tornadoes. We already had one tornado reported and confirmed by the National Hurricane Center in northern Delaware, and it won't be the last. When we zoom in on this setup, you can already see the tropical showers already lifting through. Let's refresh this here with our weather tap data. And these are flood warnings. And right here we have our first wave of heavy downpours. It's already lifting up towards Yankee Stadium, so it might be a bit of trouble there for the game. It's also moving through the Meadowlands, but it's not like the rain could really hurt the Giants at this point based on what I saw in the first quarter. But they're going to be dealing with rain as well for the rest of that game. And this rainfall is very heavy. This rainfall is being enhanced by what we call isotropic lifting. Okay, so what is isotropic lifting? Think of it like a skateboarder on a ramp, right? So the skateboarder starts here where you have the deep moisture, and it's driving through this ramp, which is this stationary front. And as it's driving through, it's gaining air. So the skateboard is in the air and it's doing its move or whatever that I saw in the Olympics. While it's doing that lifting, it's able to precipitate. And it's taking all that moisture, that tropical moisture, lifting up higher in the atmosphere and creating heavy downpours. So our skateboarder is here dropping a ton of rain. Okay, so that's what's going on down here. Further to the south, this is all driven by the actual tropical cyclone. So this feature here still has to lift through for tomorrow. And this portion right here is what we're going to be concerned with. So first, we take a look at the precipitable water values. As you can see, they are surging northward. Now, again, this is a measure of the atmosphere from the surface up to 600 millibars, so about 400 millibars of the atmosphere. This portion of the atmosphere is important to study because what you have to consider here is that we don't have very strong lifting yet, okay? And the bulk of your moisture is usually concentrated at the lowest 200 millibars, okay? Say from 800 millibars down to the surface. Then once you get above 800 millibars, your atmosphere usually is much drier. So when you have precipitable water values over 2 inches in a weak lifting environment, that is a huge warning sign. The reason why is that when we start to really enhance the lifting as our tropical disturbance lifts northward and our polar cold front comes in, so now you have tropical moisture, frontogenesis coming in, enhancing the lifting, it allows your precipitable water values to spike above 2.5 inches, possibly even touching 3 inches. And the reason why that's really important is because basically what you're doing is taking your sponge, that's your atmosphere, shoving it into a bucket of water and getting it as saturated as you possibly can, ripping out the sponge and then squeezing it out as hard as you can and dropping a lot of water very quickly over a region. So this signal here tells us these thunderstorms that are going to be developing are going to be able to feature very heavy downpours, torrential tropical downpours that have already produced areas of flash flooding. There will be more. It won't be widespread, but where these thunderstorms develop, very intense rainfall will unfold. On top of that, with all this moisture in the atmosphere, we're going to return to a threat of vivid lightning for tomorrow. Okay? When you have a lot of moisture in the atmosphere and you have more of an unstable atmosphere starting to develop, part of that is going to be the fact that our stationary front is going to be lifting northward. So we're going to get more of a pure tropical air mass in place. That's going to lead to thunderstorms capable of producing a lot of vivid lightning because we're having a lot more molecules in the atmosphere bump up against each other because there's more water vapor in the atmosphere. So it's going to create more static electricity, more boom, lightning. And then finally, with all this moisture in the atmosphere, you open up the potential for thunderstorms to be capable of producing mesoscale lows. And that part could lead to isolated tornadoes. We'll talk about that more in just a second. Talking about the lifting, this is at 9 to 25 millibars. The lifting at 700 millibars and 850 millibars is literally non-existent, okay? So the reason why I'm bringing this up, okay, and this is frontogenesis, okay? So what the reason why I'm bringing this up is because we're seeing heavy downpours without intense lifting yet. When this feature and this feature merge, what you're going to see is an area of strong frontogenesis marching through the region tomorrow in the form of a surface cold front that's going to produce intense, heavy rainfall. You're going to basically see this wall of rain and thunderstorms marching through, lifting all this tropical moisture. And behind this, as we can see with the precipitable water value, is very dry polar air. So this is a situation where not only are we lifting all this tropical moisture, but we actually have a strong cold front to go along with it. So we have a combination of strong frontogenesis now, and we have a combination of strong 500 millibar PVA with the remnant low pressure system and the turning of the atmosphere. That leads to a combination of some nasty features, and it has me concerned. So how are we seeing the rainfall now? Well, we do have some of that low-level frontogenesis that we were talking about and some divergence in diffluence. Again, this is all found on the spc.noaa.gov site, totally free. You can look it up yourself. And again, follow the question marks and it breaks down all the mathematical equations if you want to learn all the math. It's really cool stuff. But what this basically tells you is where all the lifting is occurring. So you might be saying to yourself, Stephen, there isn't much lifting at the mid-levels, as you showed, barely any frontogenesis. What are you talking about lifting? Well, what's happening is that air at the upper levels is leaving rapidly. And because the air is leaving rapidly, it leaves a vacuum. That air must be filled. Under the conservation of mass, that air must be filled. Basic physics. So what's happening is that in order to fill, it's rising rapidly. The air is rising rapidly to fill this volume, this missing volume. And so as a result, with that lifting, that's why we're seeing these tropical showers. So how are we getting these isolated thunderstorms, you might ask? Well, first let's look at the infrared satellite picture. The same area where I showed the lifting on the SPC map is exactly where we're seeing the cold cloud tops. So what can we take from this? Well, what we're learning from this is that the clouds are rapidly cooling because they're rising higher in the atmosphere. So this matches up and confirms what we're seeing in the observations in the SPC and the evolution of our jet streak dynamics. And all of this is occurring because this low is transitioning into a cold core low. You can see the dry air punching in through eastern North Carolina, the comma head starting to form out here towards the Appalachian Mountains and towards West Virginia and portions of the Ohio River Valley. And this part is what we have to concern about. On the water vapor satellite picture, everything comes together even better. Notice we have this motion here, okay? Remember that for a moment. This motion here. Then you have your conveyor belt, dryer conveyor belt taking hold here. Here's what's left of the core right here. This core is going to be lifting towards central Pennsylvania. We still have to deal with all this. This is a heavy rain couplet. That right there, that is our polar shortwave. That feature right there is what kicks everything out. As it's trying to kick everything out, it's going to phase everything together with the storm. So this feature absorbs this feature and then all lifts through. The reason why the forecast is faster than it was a couple days ago is that because this feature is no longer purely tropical, it's not going to fight against this trough anymore. It's just going to absorb into it. So there isn't a pushback. So the storm is going to move much quicker because everything's merging right into each other. Okay? Think of it like as if you're on the highway. When you have everyone getting along, you merge really nicely, and you keep on moving. You get one jerk in there that wants to cut everyone off. Before you know it, you got a major traffic jam on the LIE. That's all you need is one jerk. So, this is not being a jerk. It's going to merge, phase, head right out. The original idea was that it was going to be a jerk because it was going to be a strong tropical storm making landfall and retain its tropical characteristics through tomorrow. But that is no longer going to be the case, as we can clearly see right here. So that's the whole process that is taking shape with this storm. Why are we worried about tornadoes? Because of this feature right here. As these two merge, this jet streak right here is going to intensify and lead to winds at around 50 knots at 850 millibars. Meanwhile, the winds at the surface are going to be coming in from the southeast around 5 to 15 miles per hour, at times gusting to 10 to 20 miles per hour. The difference in those winds is what we call vertical and speed wind shear. So we have a combination of both. The vertical wind shear, not as strong. The speed shear is going to be the primary factor that's going to allow for spin up within some of these tropical thunderstorms and produce that threat for isolated tornadoes throughout the entire region. I would not be surprised tomorrow if we get an early tornado watch issued. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if it's issued overnight. We've already seen one tornado confirmed in Delaware. I would not be surprised if we see more on the way because of this factor here. And here we are at 250 millibars. The reason why I want to show you this, notice what I said earlier about the winds, the air leaving rapidly at the upper levels. Here's our jet streak. You see how everything's moving very quickly here? You're getting all this diffluence going on. So what's happening is that air over us is leaving rapidly, and then the air at the surface is rising rapidly to fill it. And that right here is the signal for that. So this trough is going to dig, pick up what's left of Debby, and send it right out. And the reason why it's moving quickly is because this is a strong jet streak, which, by the way, is part of our, you could call it kind of a La Nina influence signature. Problem is that La Nina really hasn't gained hold. And you premium members know that the PDO is kind of getting a punch to the gut this month. But there's still that influence of the polar jet stream being stronger. And this is a perfect example of that. So you're seeing all this kind of unfolding right in front of us. So over the next 42 hours, you can see what's left of Debby become absorbed at 500 millibars. Now again, the core is going to lift through central Pennsylvania and central New York. And that's where they're going to have very intense rainfall going over 4 inches. For us, the overall theme is going to be a half an inch to 2 inches of rain throughout the region. But there's going to be pockets, like what we're seeing with some of these flash flood warnings, where it's going to go over that, where you're getting your heavy downpours. We're starting to get one right now, in fact, pushing rainfall very quickly over 1/4 of an inch in a very short period of time here in Freehold. So you're going to see this quite a bit, but the overall theme is going to be a half an inch to 2 inches. Not enough to produce widespread flooding, but watch out for urban flooding in this scenario. Here is the jet streak I was talking about, okay? Now again, the core of it, the strongest winds are going to be moving through eastern Pennsylvania and western New Jersey, pushing easily over 50 knots. But the entire region is going to be around that potential, and that's why with these embedded tropical thunderstorms, you're going to see that potential for that turning in the atmosphere in those thunderstorms. And again, as I was talking about with the precipitable water values, this again is our cold front. Here's what's left of the tropical moisture from Debby, and look at what the totals are pushing up, close to 3 inches. So this is going to produce just a wall of very, very heavy rain. This doesn't mean it's going to be raining all day tomorrow. But it does mean is that when the cold front moves through, you're going to be dealing with several hours of heavy rain. But just because the morning rush hour isn't too bad, doesn't mean the evening rush hour won't be a total mess, especially on Friday. Everyone wants to get home. You want to start your weekend. You want to go over to sports, probably watch the Mets win again, or the Yankees. I don't know if they're winning. Who cares? But the fact of the matter is that it is going to be a very nasty evening rush hour on Friday, which is tomorrow. I still don't know what day it is anymore. I'm so confused. I was going to throw out the garbage today, and my wife reminded me it's not Wednesday. I'm like, oh yeah, because normally I'm doing this on Wednesday. So as far as the convective potential here, a lot of these thunderstorms are going to be elevated in nature. We're not going to see high Cape values in this scenario whatsoever. So this is why in the tornadic potential here, while yes, we have very impressive strong speed shear, and look at this, 20 knots at the surface, 50 knots aloft. This is clearly a speed shear scenario here that we're watching out for. The tornadoes in general are going to be F-zeros, and they're not going to last very long. Okay, this isn't a long duration tornado or major tornado outbreak, but it'll certainly have the potential of producing 85, 105 mile per hour winds with some of these tornadoes. So we're definitely going to have to watch out for that with some of these storms. Here is the 700 millibar relative humidity, and why I want to show you this is that this shows you the evolution of that wall of rain. For tonight into tomorrow, notice not everyone has deep relative humidity at 700 millibars. So this is a sign here for scattered showers. Here is your wall of rain, and it just marches through like so. And then behind it, oh my God, Saturday morning is going to be amazing. Dry air builds in, skies clear. The rest of the weekend, you can't ask for better. It's going to be absolutely beautiful. So I want to add a little bit of good news on that. And in fact, even with the dry air, look at the 850 millibar temperatures. We're talking about dropping down to around 10 degrees Celsius. It's going to feel amazing out. We're talking about 70s, ladies and gentlemen, for highs. That's why it's not raining. So it's going to be absolutely beautiful with dry air. Now, let me just refresh this real fast for a second. And I want to go over the HRR guidance. So over the next 48 hours, you can see the wave of showers and thunderstorms coming through. We'll have breaks from time to time. And in between that, we'll have drizzle and it'll just be overcast and raw and disgusting out. And then here comes our main line that's showing up on the mesoscale guidance. And this is going to get more and more fine-tuned as we move on through the forecast period. But these thunderstorms are going to be capable of producing 1 inch per hour rainfall rates as they march on through. And again, there you can see additional more until that cold front clears out of the region. So when we take a look at the latest guidance, let's see, it goes out to 14 hours. And you can see that same theme playing out here. And there is a consolidation of our heavy rain band that marches through. Let's see, the 22-hour one. And you can see that whole setup here. So Friday evening, unfortunately, looks pretty nasty. With that, now it's time to go and answer all of your questions and see what we got here. I also have some additional data because I figured some of you guys might be asking about some long range stuff. So I also got some of that up there as well. All right, so let's see here. So we will get to all the questions. Well, there are a lot of questions. So thank you for asking all the questions. I will get to all of them. It's only 8:24. I should be able to get it done before 9. All right, let's see here. Card says, good evening. Good evening, Card. How you doing? Are you down in Atlantic City? Baseball related weather note: 20 years ago, they are not playing during the downpours the Yankee Stadium getting tonight. That is true. They would have canceled the game by now. That is true. Thanks for hosting the chat during your birthday week. No problem. It's what I do. How bad is the tornado threat and what is the timing of it? The overall tornado threat is generally going to be weak. The problem is that they're going to spin up very quickly and collapse very quickly. So the lead time for warning is going to be difficult. Okay, this is going to be a difficult forecast for the National Weather Service to forecast. And I know that the guys in the Philadelphia office, they're always top notch. They're on top of it. Same thing with the New York office and also Binghamton. They're outstanding meteorologists. But this is going to be very difficult because it's going to spin up and spin down very quickly. These are generally going to be weak tornadoes, but they're going to be a threat in this tropical environment now all the way on until that cold front clears out, which is basically late tomorrow evening. Len says, hi, Steve. This is Len M. from NJ.com. Hey, Lenny. How you doing? Based on the latest projections by the Storm Prediction Center, it looks like we have a legitimate threat of getting some tornadoes in New Jersey on Friday. That reminds me of what we saw with the remnants of Ida in September of 2021 when 5 tornadoes touched down in New Jersey. Indeed, and a lot of rain with it as well. How different are the remnants of Tropical Storm Debby from the remnants of Ida? The structure is different because Ida was more consolidated. It was a stronger storm overall, and it kept a lot of its tropical characteristics, like the banding motion of the rainfall. All tropical systems, when they make landfall, have the potential of producing tornadoes because of the vertical and speed wind shear that is involved, especially on the eastern side of these storms. So it's not unusual to see this tornado threat popping up. The structure and the transition towards an extratropical structure is going to likely lead to less tornadoes. But at the same time, because of that jet streak that's developing, I can't rule out any one tornado at any time. So it's going to be a stormy scenario, that is for sure. Won't be as bad as Ida, but certainly not with the flooding. But certainly all you need is one to create some problems. Ground is really saturated, no place for water to even go. When the rain is let up, there is a constant drizzle. The thing that's great about this storm is that we did not get the 8 inches of rain for our water table, and I'm going to explain why. This drizzle and the light rain, I know it's disgusting to be out, and we can't even go outside to enjoy ourselves, but we can watch plenty of movies. The great news with that is that it gives time for the water to get into the water table. If we just got driving heavy rain, yeah, it sounds great, looks great in our statistics, but it doesn't get into the water table. It just rushes right off. It runs off, right? So it ends up in our sewers, it ends up in the rivers, does not end up in the ground where we need it for our vegetation. This scenario allows for the water to get into the water table, and our water table is able to recover after several weeks of dry conditions. James Davidson. Hi, Stephen. Notice that we are under a wind advisory tomorrow as well. How bad would the winds be for tomorrow? Well, that jet streak that we're talking about at 850 millibars is going to get mixed down from time to time and produce wind gusts over 30 miles per hour. So you're going to have your sustained winds coming in from the southeast around anywhere from 5 to 15 miles per hour in the afternoon, more like 10 to 20 miles per hour as you head towards the afternoon and evening hours ahead of that cold front passage. And with those winds, you're going to at times within those thunderstorms mix down those strong winds. So unfortunately, that can lead to wind damage and yes, power outages as well. I would not expect winds to push any higher than 50 miles per hour, but we'll see. The strongest winds most likely are going to be on the immediate coast, and this is why. Although the 850 millibar jet is stronger over the interior, the winds coming off the ocean are going to have less friction. So whatever gets mixed down is going to be coming in at full force and won't have the friction of the land to slow it down. Rob Allen says, Evening, Stephen, and happy birthday. Thank you very much. I am 4.5 years old. 45, but I put the point in there because I figure by the time I'm 100, I'm only 10, so it works. Let's see here. A few days ago, you posted about how the polar jet should help in steering tropical mischief out to sea. Over the past couple of suites of models, the trough seems to get deep enough to suggest the potential of cutting off more of neutral negative. Is it possible, and is it something we should monitor? We should always monitor the evolution of these troughs, right? But I'm sure that you have noticed some model guidance 7 to 10 days out producing a major hurricane, okay, out towards the Bahamas. My first rule when it comes to tropical low pressure systems, I do not trust the intensification development of tropical low pressure systems until we actually get a warm core low. Not that it can't develop or that I'm doubting that it would develop, but the reason why I have that rule is that the European guidance and some of the GFS guidance is producing a major hurricane around the Bahamas. And what that does is that it changes the height dynamics of everything surrounding it. So the Western Atlantic ridge is stronger. It pushes up against the trough over the eastern United States, increases the potential for a negative tilted trough, and for storms to head up the coast. The problem with that is that we don't have a full understanding of the nature of this warm core circulation. And the overall theme in the rest of the pattern is more of a positive tilted trough. Now, once you get a low pressure system get into the Gulf of Mexico, then you have to change the dynamics a little bit, because once it's in the Gulf of Mexico, a positive tilted trough could still send the remnant moisture up to us. And that's essentially what has happened in this scenario. But when you have a low pressure system coming in from the Bahamas and all the model guidance, and let me see actually if I have that model guidance up here, because that would probably help me explain it, wouldn't it? Let's see. I'm going to try and pull that up since we're talking about it. Might as well. Because what's happening here is that it's enhancing the Western Atlantic ridge, which pushes everything closer to the coast. But the core of the Western Atlantic ridge, and I'm trying to pull it up right now. Okay, perfect. Let me just load the data. Okay. And let me just fix one thing here. 1, 2, 4. I'm just going to pull up everything. That's set, you're set, fix. Okay, good. So now let's flip over. Okay, so what you're seeing here is this storm right here. Nasty little bugger, ain't it? What does it do to the ridge? Well, it causes this ridge to strengthen because you're having strong heights falling here. So you must have heights building here. So as a result, it causes this more western trough. You still have a positively tilted trough, but signs maybe of a cutoff here. At the end of the day, though, if this storm isn't that strong, it gets kicked right out. When we take a look at the ensemble guidance, the lowest heights are all focused out here towards the Western Atlantic. And your ridge is further out in the Atlantic, the core. So why is this important? Why am I picking up on this? Well, it is awfully hard to get a storm to curve into or head towards the coast when the trough axis is off the coast. So it kind of acts like a goalie here, because what you have is convergence and confluence setting up here, and that tends to force everything out to the east. Naturally, we have to keep an eye on this scenario and see how it plays out as we go forward. Small details in the timing of the trough axis and the timing of the storm intensification, location of the exact track of the storm are all important factors. We don't even have an organized tropical wave yet to really make any type of definite or concerning posts about this, which is why I haven't said much about it. First, let's get the tropical wave identified and figure out where that low-level circulation develops. Because, hey, if that low-level circulation develops up here, then it's already well on its way of getting ready to curve out ahead of this trough. The higher it forms in latitude, the more likely it is to head right out into the Atlantic, because it's going to get picked up by that strong jet streak much faster. So again, we'll keep an eye on it and see how it plays out. But the overall theme right now is that the trough axis is going to be focused more towards the coastal plain, from basically the Appalachians to the coastal plain. And so as a result, you're more likely to get more southwesterly and southerly winds over the coastal waters, which is going to force those storms to turn to the north and northeast much faster. Do you expect the possible tree damage for the wind to be enhanced by ground moisture saturation? That's a great question, Card. It hasn't been as saturated. Some areas have. I do expect wind damage. I do expect down trees. But I don't think that the amount of rain that we had right now is enough of a factor to be a primary driver of those down trees. So let's chat about tropical system in the Atlantic next week. With the polar jet stream still protect us? We talked about that, James. Again, we'll have to see the actual evolution, but the overall theme, I would say yes. But we have to study the details. All right, let's see what we got on YouTube. Holy smokes. We have a lot of questions out here. Let's see what we got here. Penn State may be the best. All right, one of our individuals are visiting a college. All right, getting ready to visit the colleges. My advice for anybody going to college for meteorology: do not get caught up in the flashiness of some large universities, because depending on how you learn, this is really important, okay? Depending on how you learn is really, really important, because if you're not good with taking in knowledge and instruction in a large environment where you're just a number and it's very hard to talk to the professor, that could be a real factor for you. I went to SUNY Oswego because I was able to actually talk to the professor. One of my rules when I was looking for a school is that I'm paying thousands upon thousands of dollars for education. I want to talk to the guy teaching me, not the guy who just graduated 3 years ahead of me. So that was a major factor for me to consider, that and the fact that I love lake effect snow, so I went to Oswego. But Penn State's a great school. I'm just saying, step back from the flashiness of it and ask important questions like, hey, when I have a question, who do I talk to? Is there time to sit down and talk to the professor when I don't quite understand a theorem? Do I have that opportunity, or do I have to make an appointment and wait 3 months? So these are very important questions to ask when you're touring. Yes, there is a threat for nocturnal tornadoes tonight. Absolutely. We already seen one developing around Delaware. I would not rule it out. Let's see here. PDO predictions for fall or winter. I'm going to stay away from that right now. I need more data. A lot of interesting stuff going on with the PDO right now. The overall theme is cold, is negative, but we have to watch it. I want to get about another 3 weeks of data and get the official August data coming in before I say any more. Lower conservation. Yeah. Is there a similar setup to Ida? No. Ida was a far more organized tropical low pressure system. It was slower moving. There was a lot more vertical wind shear with it than speed shear, but there was a good amount of speed shear as well. But there was more vertical wind shear than in this scenario, and the rainfall was a lot worse. So I would not put this in the realm of Ida. Why are tornadoes more prevalent on the right side of tropical cyclones? Well, it's because of the orientation of the winds. Really, it's the northeast quadrant, really. The reason why is because that quadrant is where you have your greatest vertical wind shear between your surface winds coming in from the east and northeast and your upper level winds coming in from the south and sometimes southwest. So you're getting that turning motion, and so it's enhanced more. Let's see here. If you have any outdoor events tomorrow, I mean, look, I wouldn't chance it, honestly. Wait till Saturday, because yeah, you might dodge some of the showers and thunderstorms earlier on in the day, but that main cold front coming through is nasty. I wouldn't want to be traveling in it. I wouldn't try to push it. You got a weekend that's going to be beautiful. I would use it. I would not try. I'm not planning on doing anything outdoors tomorrow. I'm indoors. Yeah, we actually canceled plans. Actually, and we just decided, why risk it? Stay in, and then the rest of the weekend we could do whatever we need to do. We're up to thinking. My daughter is flying in tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Oh boy, Newark too. Yeah, you're gonna have delays. It's going to be a bumpy ride coming in. I would not be surprised if you have some postponements or delays. Because you're dealing with a lot of strong wind shear with the planes coming in. Yeah, it's going to be a bit rough. It's certainly going to be a bumpy ride depending on where you're coming in from. So I would just be prepared to have a lot of snacks and possibly sleeping over. So, yeah, unfortunately. Do we have any questions on X?
Nothing pertinent.
All right. Anything on Facebook?
Not really anything pertinent there either. I think this is in relation to your college or class size thing, I think.
Hold on a second. That was my problem at PSU. Yeah, look. Here's the thing with college classes, because I know I got a lot of college-age kids, kids.
High school,
sorry,
yeah.
High school, whatever.
Kids to us.
Yeah, kids to us, yeah. Here's the thing, all right? I had my pick of a variety of different colleges. I could go wherever I wanted to go. And while the big schools are great for some people, you have to find one where you're comfortable. It may not be the flashiest name, but that doesn't matter. Once you graduate, that doesn't matter, okay? What matters is taking in the knowledge, right? And then how do you apply it? The first job, the name of the university might get you a few more doors open. I'm not going to say it won't, okay? Depending on what you want to do, right? So if you want to do TV or forecasting, then yeah, I mean, a big college, medium-sized college is going to be great. If you're interested in doing research, looking for a college that also has a connection to a graduate studies, like Penn State or Albany or Texas A&M or Oklahoma University, that may be a great opportunity for you because you just stay in the same place and you grow and whatnot. For some people, it could be the National Air Service. But after you make your mark getting out of college, where you went is the only people that really care about that is college football games. That's it. It doesn't matter after that. So what's important is for you to take where are you going to take in knowledge the best and learn, right? And have that one-on-one learning capability. And then once you do that, now you might be great at a large school with a large classroom with like 150 people in the class. That might be fine for you. Maybe you find it more of a challenge and you're excited about it. That's great. But just make sure it's right for you, not right for prestige or any of that nonsense, because none of that matters in the long run. How bad do you expect the roads to be after 5 p.m. tomorrow? Poor. Very poor. As that line is coming through, it's going to be literally a wall of rain, and your visibility is going to drop like a rock. Ponding's going to be major. You're going to have some roads that are going to be completely covered with water. It's going to be nasty out there. I would not advise traveling in it. Someone said the storm that hit Madison on Tuesday was a tornado, but I think it was straight line winds. I was on a train when the storm hit and the train lost power in Chatham. So far, the data suggests straight line wind gusts. There has been no confirmation of a tornado from the National Weather Service. Yep.
Ignore the first one. It's the second one we want to pay attention to. And third, apparently.
I saw a tropical system on the Euro and GFS off the coast late next week. Any early thoughts? As I was saying earlier, I would not trust any model guidance in terms of intensification or location of any tropical lows until we literally pinpoint a tropical wave that's supposed to be developing. The National Hurricane Center hasn't even pinpointed which tropical wave is going to be the one that spawns this potential tropical low. So if we don't even know that, then we don't even know where the low-level circulation is going to develop, whether it's going to have any type of dry air factors involved in it. All we know is what we climatologically know, which is that the most favorable area for development is going to be around the Bahamas and the Greater Antilles. So not exactly a big surprise there in that respect of that potential, but we really need to lock in the development of the tropical low first, get at least a potential tropical cyclone designation before we can really go any further than that. Other than that, it could just simply be noise and convective feedback.
This one's interesting. A little bit.
Does the storm double its present speed? Side note is the Horton's intro to Dynamic Met Top Road behind your Oswego 19. So it is. I still have that book, cost $20. Yeah. These books I actually got while I was in Oswego. Yeah, absolutely. The storm double its present speed. Yes. Basically, once it starts to tap into that jet streak, it does move much faster. But we have a rain or shine concert tomorrow night in Philly. We had this conversation earlier on about concerts.
Yeah, we were talking about concerts.
Look, if I can control concerts, this is what I would do. You'd already be canceled right now. If I can control this. It's heavy rain and frequent lightning and electric guitars. Those things don't mix.
They should honestly cancel it.
They should.
Honor the tickets for
in my opinion, this should have been canceled. The Yankee game should have been canceled. Okay? Out of safety. I know everyone thinks that they're tough and that, I'm the Incredible Hulk, whatever. But it is stupid to play out in these conditions. Whether you're at sports or it is a rock concert. Especially with electric guitars. I mean, geez, come on. No. I would, I don't...
The audience is more likely to get injured than it is...
Exactly. I mean, honestly... I don't know what to tell you, man. All I could say is I wouldn't be out there. No way. Let's see here. Question on the timing. Any twisters in the region tomorrow? It's a possibility, yes. This is with James, by the way. In looking at the current HRR 23Z, not showing any showers, thunderstorms during the day, so is the twister potential only the incoming frontal later in the day? Great question. Okay, the HRR yesterday at this time had no showers whatsoever lifting through right now. And we have heavy rain. Why am I pointing this out? When you're dealing with these convective models, what happens sometimes is there's so much going on that it produces dead zones that aren't really dead zones. So while I do like the idea of scattered showers and thunderstorms and some areas remaining generally quiet until the main line comes through, I would not let your guard down tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon because of the nature of these showers and thunderstorms. Yes, you may dodge a couple of bullets and get nothing for quite some time until the main cold front moves through. But given what we've seen already, I would not bank on that. Steve, this is from Todd. Steve, what are your thoughts on model guidance showing a weak La Nina at best for winter time? Could that possibly cause the PDO to heading towards neutral? No, the PDO influence and La Nina are going to be two separate factors. This La Nina has been a bit weird. It certainly has not intensified to the speed that was forecasted. That is for sure. I don't think anyone's going to argue that. The days of some people putting out super La Ninas, oh boy, did they have egg on their face, based off of one model run. Right now, the range is between cold neutral and weak La Nina state. The PDO, the reason why I want to wait for more data is that I'm not sure whether the warmer waters in the northeastern Pacific around the Gulf of Alaska is driven more based on the atmospheric circulation right now in the short term or if it's a long-term change, right? Because when we see the wind shifting and we see a reduction in that transport of the warmer water into the Gulf of Alaska, if it's the end of the negative PDO, then what we'll basically see is just kind of a neutral state to the sea surface temperatures. But if it's not, what you'll see is a rapid return of the cold waters. So I want to wait to see what that process is before I make any determination on that. And because it's a seasonal forecast, and we got some time before now and the winter forecast, I want to sit back and kind of watch this process play out before making any other determinations.
You too, buddy.
Oh, wow, yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people went to SUNY Oswego. Absolutely. In fact, yeah, the head of AccuWeather absolutely did too. I'd say, whatever school you feel comfortable with, rock it out. But at the end of the day, what matters is how you learn and what you feel comfortable with. Any questions on anywhere else? No. All right. Well, it is getting close to 9 o'clock. I'm going to take a few more final questions. And take a look at the radar, see if there's anything going on out there that catches my eye. Let's pull that up, and then we'll wrap things up. And of course, we get data. New data is coming in, so let me refresh that. Okay, so let's see what we have in this radar here. Now, we got the first waves coming through. See the tropical moisture lifting northward. The frontal boundary isn't going to be moved much, but by tomorrow morning, that's going to be a warm front lifting northward. What's going to happen is that this is going to just basically connect onto the stationary front, lift it north as a warm front, and this cold front's going to come in and catch up to all of this tropical moisture and lift it. And you can already see the edge of that tropical moisture. This is more of a modified continental tropical air mass over here. Here's our pure polar air mass back here. So here's the cold front by itself, producing a few scattered showers. Not that bad, right? Once it interacts with all this tropical moisture, that's when you're going to see this line of heavy rainfall and embedded thunderstorms marching through. In the meantime, we're going to continue to see these waves lifting northward. The next one, we just heard a little bit of rumble of thunder. We have one right here around Monmouth County. This is a bit more drizzle. This heavier rainfall is lifting up towards eastern Pennsylvania. And then this right here, you see these waves? This is what's going to be lifting up towards us, which unfortunately HRR data has, and NAM data as well, can have a difficult time handling. Saddle River in Saddlebrook is notorious for flooding during heavy rains. Is the system going to be strong enough for substantial flooding? As it stands right now, no. But a big but here. Much like the thunderstorm that we had sitting over Delaware County, in northern Delaware, should I say, it produced very, very heavy rainfall. I cannot forecast whether or not you're going to get that type of thunderstorm complex sitting over that river this far out. But it's a possibility. So if you get that type of scenario, yes, you'll see river flooding. But the overall general theme should be that, considering we haven't had a lot of rain previously, that we shouldn't see that type of flooding in this scenario. Let's see here. Do you expect there still be banding as Debby's remnants approach? And if so, will the banding... Well, yeah, that's why we have the potential for tornadoes, because of the banding. Because of the banding nature. But that will gradually fade away as the cold front catches up to this system. So a lot of that banding is going to be to the south of this frontal boundary as it's lifting northward.
Missed one earlier. Somebody said, heard there was a confirmed tornado tonight in Delaware.
Yes, there was. National Weather Service already confirmed it.
You don't have to answer.
So, I think, well, that's pretty much, we're pretty much at 9 o'clock now. I think we shall wrap it up for this evening. Thank you all for joining. I hope I answered all your questions to the best of my ability. And I would say, if you have outdoor plans tomorrow, postpone them for your own safety. Because, hey, look, we like to have you here, you know? So, stay safe.
Better safe than sorry.
Better safe than sorry. Listen to the National Weather Service warnings that get put out. And as always, stay safe out there. Have a good night, and I will see you next week.